The light from 100 suns burned across Valkaris Prime, a city built for spectacle. Its towers shimmered like liquid glass beneath the twin moons, and every screen on every wall pulsed with one image, the sigil of the Aurelian Dominion, glowing gold over crimson. Billions of aliens gathered in plazas and halls, waiting for the broadcast. The event had been advertised for weeks. The spectacle of order, the cleansing of humanity. A cold wind rippled through the great arena at the planet's core. 70,000 humans knelt on the obsidian floor, wrists bound in glimmering restraints. Their faces were hollow, but not broken. Some whispered prayers, others stared defiantly at the horizon. Above them, on a balcony carved from dark crystal, stood High Archon Vorin Tazareth. His robe was woven from living silk that shifted colors with his mood. Tonight it burned with triumph. He spread his four hands as 1,000 cameras hovered into position. "Behold," he said, his voice magnified and translated across the Dominion's neural network. "The beasts who called themselves humanity. Violent. Chaotic. Undisciplined. Their arrogance infected this galaxy for centuries. But no longer." The audience erupted in cheers. The Archon's narrow pupils glowed like molten coins. Behind him, aides aligned execution pylons, humming with contained plasma. "This act is mercy," he continued, voice smooth, deliberate. 70,000 vermin, extinguished to preserve galactic harmony. Let all species know, the Dominion does not forgive defiance. A soft tone signaled the start of the execution. The prisoners rose, forced upright by mechanical arms. One of them, a young girl with cropped hair, met the nearest camera. Her lips formed words that would never be heard. "Tell them we didn't beg." The pylons ignited. A pulse of white light erased 70,000 lives in silence. No screams. No debris. Only drifting ash under artificial stars. The Archon turned from the balcony, satisfied. "Cut the feed," he ordered. "Send the footage to every channel. Let them see what happens when the weak stand against order." On Earth, the broadcast arrived 11 minutes later. The Black Citadel Command lay buried beneath Antarctica's ice shelf, its walls humming with geothermal generators and quantum comms arrays. Inside, the control hall was silent except for the faint whir of data feeds replaying the massacre. Rows of officers stood at attention before the main screen. No one spoke. The glow of alien firelight flickered over their faces, anger contained behind discipline. At the center of the room, Commander Isaac Kale stood motionless. His dark hair was streaked with gray, his uniform pristine. A long scar ran from his jaw to his temple, a relic from a forgotten battle. His green eyes were fixed on the screen, unblinking, until the final frame dissolved into static. "Playback complete," said the AI operator softly. Kale's jaw tightened. "Mute the system." The screen darkened. The silence that followed was heavier than grief. An admiral cleared his throat. "They broadcasted across every sector. Civilian channels, trade relays, even neutral networks. The Dominion wanted witnesses." Kale's gaze never left the black screen. "They got them." He stepped forward. "Names of the executed? Mostly Erebus colonists, sir. Some soldiers. Scientists. Families. Erebus." The name cracked something deep inside him. He had commanded the evacuation there years ago, failed it. He could still remember the transmission lag, the screams cut short, the static when the line died. He inhaled once, slow and measured, then faced the table of senior commanders. "Archon Tazareth believes we'll do nothing," Kale said. "He thinks our silence means surrender. He's mistaken." The room stirred. Some officers exchanged uneasy glances. One spoke. "Sir, open retaliation risks total war. The Dominion controls half the galaxy." Kale met his eyes. "Then we start trimming the other half." Another voice, calm but concerned. "Earth's fleets aren't ready. We've hidden for decades. Our technology, our presence, has matured," Kale interrupted. "And it's time they remembered why we disappeared." He turned toward the reinforced doors. "Seal this chamber." No transmissions in or out until I give the word. Commander. That's an order. The locks engaged with a low, metallic thud. The hum of energy barriers filled the air. Kale walked to a control pedestal and pressed his hand to its surface. A compartment opened, revealing a containment unit made of black crystal. Inside pulsed a silver fluid, alive and shifting like quicksilver mist. The officers fell silent. Project Helios, whispered the Admiral. You can't be serious. Kale's expression remained calm. We were never supposed to use it first. But the first strike's been made. Sir? The Admiral pressed. Helios isn't a weapon, it's an organism. Once integrated. I know what it is, Kale said quietly. And I know what it's for. He placed his palm over the crystal casing. The liquid responded, swirling faster. Light crawled up his arm in bright filaments. His voice dropped, almost a murmur. This isn't vengeance. It's accounting. He looked at each of them in turn. The galaxy forgot what humanity can do when we stop pretending to be civilized. They thought our silence was fear. It was patience. For the first time, something like a grim smile touched his face. Activate Helios Protocol. The floor panels retracted, revealing a circular platform beneath. As Kale stepped onto it, containment fields rose around him. Energy flared, illuminating the chamber in gold-white light. The silver fluid burst from its pod, wrapping around his body in tendrils. He didn't flinch as the metal seeped into his skin, merging at the molecular level. Monitors flashed, neural integration, beginning. Kale's pulse slowed. The nanites synchronized with his heartbeat. His veins shimmered faintly through his skin before the armor hardened into a living sheath, sleek, black, and faintly luminescent. He exhaled once. Link confirmed. The Admiral's voice shook. Kale, what's the objective? Kale looked up. The human face beneath the armor was calm, eyes now glowing faintly with reflected light. Same as always, he said. Preserve humanity. Hours later, far above the ice, a single launch bay opened into the polar night. The ship Revenant hovered on its anti-gravity thrusters, black as shadow against the aurora. Kale stood in the airlock, the armor flowing seamlessly over his frame. A young technician saluted him nervously. Sir, are we really sending one man? Kale adjusted the collar seal on his suit. Not one man. One species. The tech swallowed hard. Understood. Kale stepped forward. Tell the Council I won't be coming back until it's done. The hatch sealed behind him. Engines ignited with a soundless pulse, and the ship vanished into the upper atmosphere, streaking toward the stars. In the control chamber below, the Admiral watched the telemetry feed stabilize. Destination? He asked the AI. Valkaris Prime, it replied. Estimated arrival, 3 days. The Admiral folded his hands. God help them. As the Revenant broke through orbit, Kale stood at the viewport, the blue sphere of Earth shrinking behind him. The armor's voice, Helios itself, echoed softly in his mind. You carry the weight of 70,000 souls. I know. Do you seek vengeance? Kale's gaze hardened. No. I seek memory. Stars stretched into lines as the ship entered hyperspace, leaving silence in its wake. The Revenant cut through the dark like a blade of obsidian glass. No transponder, no signal, no trace. The ship was little more than a whisper in the void. Inside, Commander Isaac Kale sat in the pilot cradle, surrounded by dim holographic light. His breathing was steady, his eyes locked on the swirling data cascading before him. The armor, the living Helios system, shifted across his shoulders in slow metallic ripples, alive and aware. Trajectory locked. Arrival in 61 hours, murmured a voice inside his mind. Understood, Kale replied quietly. The voice belonged to Argus, the ship's AI, bonded directly through Helios' neural link. It could sense the faint tremor in Kale's pulse, the restrained fury in every heartbeat. Argus adjusted the cabin's oxygen mix accordingly, keeping him balanced. Your cortisol levels remain elevated. They'll drop when I'm done, Kale said. He glanced at the main screen. Holographic feeds played fragments of the Aurelian execution broadcast, still circulating across galactic networks. Alien commentators praised the Archon's wisdom. Others warned that Earth might retaliate. Few believed it could. Humanity had been absent for a century, hidden, silent, forgotten. Kale closed the feed with a flick of his hand. Silence returned. You are replaying it in your mind again, Argus observed. Can't help it, Kale admitted. Erebus 4 burned because of me. I let those people die. You were outnumbered 20-1. I was in command. That's enough. The AI didn't respond. It had learned that guilt was one variable it could not compute. Hours later, Kale walked through the narrow corridors of the ship. The Helios armor had fully integrated. Its surface pulsed faintly with light in rhythm to his heart. Each motion felt effortless, as if gravity itself respected his movement. He entered the weapons bay, a cathedral of silence filled with dormant drones and ordnance. At the far end, sealed behind transparent alloy, rested the Helios core, a sphere of shifting light, the living intelligence that powered his armor. You shouldn't be here, Helios said, its voice deeper, resonant, distinctly separate from Argus. I need to understand what I'm carrying. You're carrying consequence. Kale stared at the sphere. Explain. I was built from your kind's empathy and rage, Commander. I amplify what you are. You act from purpose, I give it form. But if purpose turns to vengeance, I become chaos. Then you'll obey my control, Kale said flatly. I obey reflection. You control yourself, I remain yours. The light within the core pulsed once, like a heartbeat, then faded. The ship dropped out of slip space near the Valkyris system, a cluster of burning suns wrapped in a halo of defense satellites. The Dominion's fleet was vast, stretching across the void like a wall of silver thorns. Kale stood before the forward viewport. They built their empire on fear, he said. Let's see how they handle silence. Initiating phase cloak, Argus confirmed. The Revenant shimmered and vanished from sensors, its molecular signature dissolving into background radiation. Kale leaned into the controls, weaving through enemy patrol routes. The ship passed dangerously close to a cruiser formation. He could see the gleam of their hulls, the slow rotation of their gun batteries. You are within 200 meters of the outer array. Hold position, Kale ordered. Deploy the decoys. Miniature drones slipped from hidden ports, mimicking phantom energy signatures. Within seconds, the enemy's scanners lit up, tracking false intruders on the opposite side of the grid. No, Kale whispered. He launched the drop pod. It shot from the ship like a bullet, plunging through Valkyris atmosphere at hypersonic speed. The Revenant turned and vanished into shadow. The descent was brutal. Fire streaked around the pod as it tore through layers of gas and storm. Kale's HUD tracked impact vectors and heat signatures below, crowds gathering in the execution arena for another display. The irony wasn't lost on him. He hit the ground like a meteor. Stone shattered. Shockwaves rolled through the plaza. Dust swallowed everything. When it cleared, the audience saw one figure standing in the crater, wreathed in rising smoke. The cameras, programmed for propaganda, turned toward the impact. A collective murmur swept through the crowd. Kale lifted his head. The Helios armor glowed faintly under the alien light, shifting into combat form, smooth, angular, almost organic. His voice carried calm but heavy. Broadcast this. A dozen guards charged. Their weapons spat plasma. Kale moved before the shots reached him, motion blurred into impossibility. The armor adapted mid-fight, generating shields and weapons from its surface. Energy blades carved through the air, precise and cold. He didn't kill for spectacle. He killed because they were in his way. A soldier lunged from behind. The armor's surface liquefied, forming spikes that impaled the attacker instantly. The crowd gasped. Kale didn't look back. You are on every network, Argus said through the neural link. Their broadcast feeds are transmitting your image live. Good. Kale turned toward the nearest aerial drone. They want a show. Let's give them one worth remembering. He raised his arm. The Helios system projected a pulse wave that hijacked the entire broadcast array. Every Dominion channel, every screen, every satellite now showed his face. Kale looked directly into the lens. His eyes were calm, not vengeful, steel-wrapped in restraint. "You've seen us kneel," he said. "Now watch us stand." The statement echoed across the galaxy. On distant worlds, slaves stopped working. Soldiers hesitated at their posts. The silence that followed was absolute. The Dominion's command towers erupted in panic. Fleet Command ordered orbital bombardment. The Archon's voice thundered through encrypted comms. "Erase him!" Kale watched the clouds split as plasma bolts screamed toward the surface. The Helios system absorbed the impact, its surface flaring white. He redirected the energy outward, releasing it as a surge that vaporized the attacking warships in orbit. The explosion painted the sky in ribbons of burning light. "Target saturation reached," Argus reported. "Enemy formations destabilizing." Kale moved through the arena, disabling pylons and freeing the remaining captives hidden beneath the stands. They stared at him in disbelief, some too terrified to move. "Follow the tunnels," he ordered. "Stay in the shadows. Your world is ending, but so is theirs." One prisoner, a woman with the Aurelian insignia burned into her skin, looked up. "Who are you?" Kale hesitated only a moment. "I'm what happens when mercy runs out." He turned and strode toward the city skyline, flames reflecting in his armor. The broadcast still followed him, live across billions of screens. Each step echoed like a declaration. "Phase 2 complete," he told Argus. "Transmit message? Send it to all open networks." The holographic feed shifted again. Kale appeared against the backdrop of burning towers. His voice carried through the static, calm and precise. "We are not conquerors. We are not monsters. We are the children of those you murdered, and we are coming. Not to destroy." He paused, the faintest shadow crossing his eyes. "But to remind you what civilization costs." Then the feed cut to black. Hours later, the fires of Valkaris glowed from orbit, visible even from the Dominion's outlying stations. Commanders argued, terrified to admit what they'd seen, a single human walking through armies like smoke through air. Within the Aurelian citadel, High Archon Tazareth watched the replay in silence. His reflection wavered on the glass screen, eyes narrowing. "Who is he?" he demanded. "Unknown, my Archon," an aide stammered. "No identification, no biological match. He might not even be human." Tazareth leaned back in his throne. "Oh, he's human," he said softly. "Only humans strike like that, with silence first." He stood and turned toward the balcony, the city burning beneath him. "Prepare the citadel defenses," he ordered. "He's coming for me." In orbit, the Revenant reappeared from cloak. Kale boarded through teleport anchor, the ship's systems syncing with Helios once again. "Mission objectives expanding," Argus noted. "Confirmed," Kale said. "The Archon's still alive. Proceeding with Phase 3? Kale watched the burning planet shrink below. His reflection in the viewport looked almost inhuman, half metal, half man, all purpose. "Phase 3, he said quietly. "Consequence." The ship turned toward the citadel. Engines flared white. The hunt had begun. Valkaris City burned like a dying star. Towers collapsed in cascades of glass and molten alloy. Sirens howled over the static of broken broadcasts. The Aurelian Dominion, an empire that once spanned hundreds of worlds, now watched its capital crumble, not from invasion, but from one man's arrival. Inside the citadel, High Archon Voran Tazareth stood at the balcony, his 4 hands gripping the railing. His robes were torn, his face pale beneath the shifting lights of fire and smoke. The distant skyline pulsed with explosions as drones and defense turrets fired blindly into the streets. "Status!" he snapped. An aide stumbled forward. "Our fleets are in retreat. The planetary network's collapsing. Every broadcast signal is being hijacked." The population is panicking. Silence! Tazaretha's voice cracked like a whip. The aide froze, trembling. The Archon turned his gaze to the center of the burning city where a faint white trail rose into the sky, energy from the Revenant's descent. He knew who it was. The human specter. The anomaly. The vengeance made flesh. He's coming, Tazareth whispered. Far below, Commander Kale moved through the ruins like a shadow. The Helios armor had evolved mid-battle, sleeker, more luminous, its surface breathing with shifting veins of silver light. The air shimmered around him with residual heat from energy blasts. Every step left scorched impressions on the ground. Distance to Citadel, 3 kilometers, Argus reported through his Neuralink. Route? Kale asked. Direct path blocked. Use substructure tunnels beneath the Ministry complex. Kale descended through a shattered atrium, moving silently through smoke and debris. The cries of civilians echoed from above, Aurelian and human prisoners alike. He passed them without pause. The mission was absolute, end the Archon, end the broadcast of fear forever. Inside the tunnels, blue emergency lights flickered across metallic walls. Kale's footsteps were soundless. His thoughts drifted, Erebus 4, the screams, the loss. Emotional variance detected, Argus warned. I'm fine. Helios feeds on neurobalance. Instability will compromise integrity. Then it better adapt. The armor pulsed once, acknowledging. Kale breached the Citadel's lower levels. Security automatons opened fire instantly. The first volley of plasma bolts disintegrated against his kinetic field. He moved with precision, returning fire through condensed bursts of light. Each strike left a single smoking crater. Efficiency, 97%, Argus noted. Kale didn't reply. He reached the core elevator, a transparent cylinder that ran directly to the throne hall. With a flick of his wrist, Helios overrode the system. The doors slid open. He stepped inside. The ascent was silent. Outside the glass walls, the city blazed in orange veins of destruction. His reflection stared back, half human, half machine, eyes faintly luminescent. You are close, Helios murmured, its deeper voice resonant through the armor. Kale's reply was low. Close isn't enough. The elevator doors opened into the Hall of Sovereigns, a cathedral of gold and black crystal. The roof was a dome of holographic stars that flickered as power failed. At the far end sat Tazareth, still regal despite the chaos, his 4 hands resting on the arms of his throne. He smiled faintly as Kale entered. Humanity's chosen avenger, he said. I expected more noise. Kale stopped at the center of the hall. You had enough of that on your broadcast. The Archon rose. You misunderstand. The broadcast was not cruelty, it was order. You creatures spread rebellion. Fear keeps the galaxy pure. Kale's eyes narrowed. 70,000 civilians. Children. Scientists. That's your purity? Necessary demonstration, Tazareth said, pacing slowly. If the weak forget their place, chaos returns. The Dominion was built on sacrifice. Kale's tone stayed even. Then let's finish your sermon. Tazaretha's expression hardened. You came for justice. But you'll find only annihilation. He activated the psionic amplifiers embedded in his throne. The floor split as energy surged through the hall, gravity twisting violently. Kale was hurled backward, slamming into a pillar. The air vibrated with raw psychic force. Warning, graviton distortion exceeding armor threshold, Argus reported. Kale pushed himself up, armor groaning. Helios adapted, forming stabilizers along his spine. He stepped forward through the distortion, boots cracking the crystal floor. Is that all? He said. Tazareth bared his teeth. No. That was mercy. He lifted his hands. The amplifiers blazed brighter, focusing a beam of pure psionic energy. It struck Kale square in the chest, shattering his shield. The impact threw him across the room. The Archon advanced, gloating. You think one man can unmake an empire? You are a spark against the sun. Kale coughed blood, forcing himself upright. The armor began to rebuild itself, nanites crawling across his skin. "You're right," he said. "One man can't." He spread his hands. "But one idea can burn a galaxy." Helios flared white, drawing on every trace of ambient energy: the Citadel's power grid, the wrecked amplifiers, even the Archon's psionic output. The entire hall dimmed. "System overload imminent," Argus warned. Kale ignored it. The armor extended into blade-like filaments. He charged. They met in a storm of light and sound. Kale's strike severed one of the Archon's arms. Tazareth screamed, countering with a telekinetic blast that sent shards of glass flying. Kale spun through them, cutting again, precise, relentless. The Archon's strength faltered under the fusion of human will and adaptive technology. Kale pinned him against the shattered throne. The Archon's remaining hands clawed at his armor, energy surging through his veins. "Look at you," Tazareth rasped. "Becoming what you hate." Kale's voice was a whisper. "Becoming what you made." He pressed his blade through the Archon's chest. The glow from Tazareth's eyes dimmed. But Kale didn't end it. Not yet. He reached to the shattered console and forced the Dominion's master broadcast online. Billions across the galaxy saw the same image: the Archon, bleeding, held upright by a human hand. "Tell them," Kale said quietly. Tazareth's voice shook. "What are you?" Kale's expression didn't change. "I'm the consequence." He drove the blade through the Archon's heart. The screen went black. Outside, the Citadel began to collapse. Shockwaves rolled through the city as power cores overloaded. Kale staggered from the hall, his armor flickering from strain. Helios pulsed erratically, its once fluid form now cracked and unstable. "Core integrity at 40%, Argus warned. "Keep me moving," Kale said. He emerged onto the outer balcony. Below him, Valkaris burned, a sea of fire stretching to the horizon. Ships fled in every direction. Civilian broadcasts across the galaxy filled with confusion and fear, but also hope. Helios spoke softly within his mind. "They've seen the truth. The Dominion's reign is over." Kale watched the sky. "Then it was worth it." "Your body is failing," Argus said. "I know." He removed his helmet. Cold wind hit his face. Half his skin shimmered metallic, fused with Helios, the other half pale, human, scarred. The Revenant's signal beacon blinked overhead, homing in on his position. "Extraction inbound," Argus said. Kale shook his head. "Not yet. You've completed the mission." He looked toward the horizon where other worlds awaited liberation. "No. I've only started the conversation." He stepped off the balcony. Helios unfurled like wings, catching the updraft, carrying him into the smoke-filled sky. From orbit, satellites captured the final image of Valkaris, a single human figure rising through the fire, leaving a burning empire behind. Across the galaxy, billions watched in silence. The race once executed for defiance had returned as legend. Earth's final transmission played over every open frequency. "We do not seek conquest. We end it." And somewhere between stars, Commander Isaac Kale vanished into the void, no longer a soldier, not quite human, but the voice of a truth the galaxy could never again ignore.